How is the Frontier Archive actually made? Behind every chapter is a production process combining story development, world building, character performance, visual design, music, sound, and final editing. This is how the Frontier Archive is created. The Frontier Archive is an original cinematic science fiction universe built around continuing stories, recurring characters, ancient civilizations, and mysteries beyond the frontier. Every release is part of a larger narrative. Everything begins with the story. Inside Frontier Studio, chapters, scenes, narration, dialogue, and continuity are developed before production begins. The story is divided into individual scenes, but each scene remains connected to the larger narrative. Decisions made in one chapter can affect characters and events much later in the story. That makes continuity an important part of the production from the very beginning. The story is supported by a growing canon library containing characters, civilizations, locations, technology, ships, and important artifacts. Established visual references help maintain consistency between chapters. Characters remain recognizable. Factions preserve their own visual language, and recurring technology and locations continue to belong to the same universe. Once a scene is ready, narration and dialogue are produced as individual performances. Characters have their own voices, delivery, and emotional direction, allowing dialogue and narration to be adjusted separately during production. This also gives each scene more control over pacing, tension, and character interaction. The next stage is visual production. Each image is created around what is actually happening in the scene, using established character and world references where required. AI-assisted tools are part of this workflow, but every image still has to pass the same creative test. Does it fit the story, the characters, and the established visual canon of the Frontier Archive? Images can be revised, replaced, or rejected before they become part of the finished chapter. The goal is not simply to create a science fiction image. The image has to belong to this universe. Once a scene image is approved, it is prepared for the finished video. Final composition, presentation, interface elements, and scene formatting are added before the asset enters the edit. Every scene is organized inside its own production structure, so the correct images, audio, and supporting assets can be tracked throughout the chapter. Sound is also built in layers. Narration and character performances form the foundation, while music and ambience establish atmosphere, scale, and tension. Individual sound effects are added where specific actions or events require them. Keeping these elements separate gives much greater control during the final mix. The separate production elements finally come together in DaVinci Resolve. Scene visuals, narration, character dialogue, music, ambience, sound effects, subtitles, overlays, and transitions are assembled into the final timeline. Timing is adjusted around the performances and the events taking place on screen. A chapter can contain dozens of visual and audio elements, and every scene passes through this process before becoming part of the completed story. Thank you for watching. Thank you for stepping behind the archive and seeing how the Frontier Archive is brought to life. Every chapter begins with a story and grows through world building, character performances, visual production, sound design, music, ambience, and final editing. Your support helps this original science fiction universe continue to grow. One scene, one chapter, and one archive entry at a time. The archive remains. The story continues. Stories from the edge of known space. The Frontier Archive.